Curiosity has always driven man to explore, despite the fact that there might be risks involved. On October 28, 1990, in a remote area of Alabama, 5 young men set out for an afternoon adventure with no idea that it might lead to tragedy.
Cave rescue differs from many types of rescue in the sense that it's not an easy load and go situation. You can't simply back the ambulance up and load your patient in. Not too long ago we did a cave rescue, and it ultimately took 54 of us 18 hours to get this injured person out of the cave.
Tom Harris and his friend Paul Aughey had traveled from Florida to spend a weekend with local caving enthusiasts. Among them was Pat Lancaster.
Since Tom and Paul were visiting with us from Tallahassee, we wanted to do a vertical caving trip that went to a pit that they'd not done before. So we decided that we would take Paul and Tom up to Moses' Tomb.
Paul had only been caving for 2 years.
What we were planning to do is what's called bouncing the pit, and that's where you just rappel down to the bottom and then just climb back up.
What do you think? A little caving today?
Pat and Art Goller had rappelled the more than 200 feet down to the bottom of Moses' Tomb before.
Moses' Tomb has the biggest flowstone formation I've ever seen in it. It's about 150 feet tall. It's gorgeous. There's all kinds of formations on the climb up.
You ready to go in, dude?
No, go ahead. Tom was going to go down first, but he had a little bit of trouble with his light. So Howard went down first.
It was only the 3rd time Howard Cobb had rappelled down into any cave.
Unless you got a car headlight on your helmet, you can't see the bottom. So the whole time you're cruising. I was doing pretty good speed down the road.
After Howard was off rope, Tom went ahead and then began to rig onto the rope.
On rope!
And then I heard Tom holler on rope.
Holy shit!
We heard someone screaming up from the bottom of the pit.
Yes!
After a few moments, we ascertained that it was Howard and that he was calling for help. At that time, those of us on top didn't really have a clear idea of what had completely happened, but we knew that there was serious trouble.
He fell about 100 feet! Do I need to come down?
Art was the person who already had his harness on and was ready to descend next.
Hang on, he's on top of the rope! Howard! We're going for help.
Talk to me, Tom. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. He was cold, and he was gasping, he was sputtering, like he was going into some type of seizure.
All right, Art, rope's free! Come on! On rope!
You're just trying to, for your heart not to bust out of your chest, you know, that this is real and it's happening, and oh my God.
By the time Art got to the bottom of the cave, Tom had begun to regain consciousness.
And I don't know what happened. He got over the lip and he just started cruising.
Very obvious that his left leg was fractured badly just because of the way it was bent back. And I tore the bottom of my shirt off to stop the bleeding there.
Dude, this is going to hurt.
The nearest telephone was at a truck stop 15 minutes away.
s.w.a.t, clear.
At 11:40 a.m., the call for help came into the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department.
Hello. My friend's been in an accident.
The local rescue squad from Ida was immediately dispatched to the scene. Volunteer member Ricky Little also responded from his home.
I immediately went back to dispatch and notified them that I was en route for them to notify Rainsville Rescue Squad because they had more appropriate rappelling type gear that we would need involved with cave rescue.
It's getting cold.
It didn't look good. He's really complaining of pain and can't feel his legs, and you're worried. I wasn't sure whether or not he was going to make it or not. He was in pretty rough shape.
The first EMTs arrived at the scene within 50 minutes. Without the rappelling gear needed to get them 230 feet down into the cave and Tom back up, they were helpless.
I advise base contacted Rainsville. They are en route with rappellers.
Minutes later, the Rainsville Rescue Squad arrived with some ropes and rappelling equipment.
Okay, we're going to set up a LZ here in case we need to do a scene flat.
We were by no means experts in rope rescue field, and of course we didn't have any idea of how extensive the man was injured.
It had been more than 2 hours since the accident. Tom's condition was continuing to deteriorate. At the top of the cave, paramedic Anthony Clifton assessed the scene.
We got a man from the tree fell about 120 feet.
You have no immediate access to a victim, particularly in a vertical cave, and realized almost immediately that it was, in fact, more than we could handle because of the depth of the cave.
Anthony, being experienced in rappelling, volunteered to descend and provide the necessary emergency response for the victim.
Pretty much everything we're going to need, I think.
The Chattanooga-Hamilton County Cave Rescue Team was called in, but they were based 50 miles away in Tennessee.
Slow! We got it! The rope free! You're ready, Anthony.
As soon as they get here...
And I knew that there was a person down there who needed help, and I knew that I had enough experience to get to that patient. But we had a close friend who had died attempting a similar rescue some weeks earlier.
Anthony then handed me his personal contents and said, "Tell Barbara," that's his wife, "I love her." And then he descended to the bottom of the tomb.
On rope!
When we continue...
I was down there.